Greetings, members, one and all of the Salivation Nation. Silver is acting weird again. Let's explore. There's not been a whole lot of movement in the silver price today, but it is acting quite strange and in the opposite direction. Let's take a look at the markets. Look at that. Yesterday reported that silver was down while gold was up. Silver's been taking quite a hit. However, as the day is coming to a close here now, it is up only just slightly. It's up 7 cents, still well below the $23 level. But it is strange because only gold is down today. Therefore, the gold to silver ratio has narrowed some, down almost a full ounce here, 79 ounces of silver to buy 1 ounce of gold. And so one can make the assumption that there's a correction on both sides. There's a reasoning for this weird activity with silver especially. And maybe gold is correcting to the downside a little bit here, and silver is correcting to the upside. However, the correction differential is not enough to really write home about. Of course, people typically don't write home anymore. They just send a text. But nonetheless, there's where the markets are as we close out on this Thursday, the second day of December here. And what's going on? They're mixed heading into the European Open. There's a lot of different things we're going to look at in this article here from Kitco, from Rajan Dahl here. On the 2nd of December, gold, which is down slightly, and silver up slightly, are mixed heading into the European Open. The yellow metal is trading at 1775, while silver has retraced after a tough session on Wednesday, $22.38. In the rest of the commodities complex, copper is 0.5% higher, and spot WTI is 1.22% in the black. So what about this risk sentiment we're seeing? The markets were weaker in the Asia Pac session. The Nikkei is down negative 0.65%, ASX down negative 16%, and Shanghai Composite was down slightly lower as well. Futures in Europe are also indicating a negative cash option. In FX markets, the US dollar to GPY was the biggest mover, and the pair rose 0.43%. And then Bitcoin also fell about almost 0.75% to trade at $56,822 per Bitcoin. They say per ounce there, but it's really per Bitcoin. So things are kind of mixed all across the board. And we have a litany of other things here that can play a role in precious metal prices as we move forward here. Fed's Mester says a quicker taper gives the Fed room to hike earlier if needed. U.S. Dr. Fauci says don't alter travel plans. Hopes that the U.S. can end the Omicron travel restrictions soon, although as of the recording of this video, 3 cases have been found. Australian internal border tightening has begun due to the Omicron COVID-19 variant. Chinese property investment is expected to drop 3% in the first half of 2022. So that is pretty astounding news right there. Real estate in China and economic activity. You've heard me talk about how there is stagflation already in China, and this is probably part of the result of that if investment in Chinese property is expected to drop by that much for the first half of next year. RBNZ chief economist, the Omicron variant unlikely to change the outlook. In fact, that is just it. When we talk about this new variant or anything related to the virus in general, this is how the market perceives the information, whether or not it's legitimate or no matter how you feel about it. One thing is for sure, market sentiment is real, even if they are, overreacting or underreacting to certain things. Suzuki says the pandemic relief programs are an emergency step and need to be terminated at some point. Boy, that's for sure. That's the Bank of Japan's, the Central Bank of Japan's Suzuki is saying that. Turkey's Erdogan has fired his treasury and finance minister. That's important, folks. Things like that happen around the world. These are geopolitical pressures on the precious metals, and that is quite a fascinating and interesting development here that we're seeing in Turkey. China's plan to end its dependency on Australian iron ore, according to some press reports. And so there's a plan to do that, and that's going to have an effect one way or the other. New Zealand terms of trade for the third quarter is up 0.7% and was expected to be up 2%. So under expectations there. Japan November Consumer Confidence Index 39.2 versus an expected 40.3. So a lot of different things happening globally that are not good in the economy. Australia October trade between the Australian dollar is up $11.22 billion versus expected $11 billion in Australian dollars. So it's up slightly there, I guess, or maybe, I don't know how you interpret that. Could be good. Trade balance. Maybe that's not, I don't know. Looking ahead to the rest of the session highlights inside easy unemployment numbers, U.S. initial jobless claims, comments from Fed's Bostic, Quarles, and European Central Bank's Panetta. And so some are saying that the jobs numbers are going to be better than expected, so we'll see. That's going to obviously put pressure on there. So if you look back onto what the Fed's Bostic says about the Fed says faster taper in our interest, and that's playing ahead here. But what does that mean for silver? Well, it's reacting in the positive direction. Maybe not necessarily to this news or not, but in this conference on Thursday, it would be appropriate to end the central bank's bond buying program by the end of March to allow the Fed the option to raise rates and deal with inflation. And it began tapering its bond buying last month on a pace that would end the program entirely by June. It's set to consider compressing that timeline when policymakers next meet on December the 14th and 15th. With robust growth, the job market improving, and inflation running more than twice the Fed's 2% target, I think having this finished sometime before the end of the quarter would be in our interest. So this report just came out today, and silver is reacting positively. Normally it would be negatively because we see that gold is down $13 here. Silver's up 7 cents. 7 cents there. So it's kind of working in tandem, which makes me think that silver's weird reaction here is a correction. Maybe it was oversold. Entirely in the paper markets. But as I mentioned recently in a video, what we can bet on is that premiums are going to stay high and they're not going to go at the same rate. They're not going to move in the same rate that the spot price moves. And so that separation between physical and paper price is very real, folks. And it's something that is going to be with us, I believe, well into 2022, no matter what spot price does. People will keep buying, I believe, and that's going to keep the premiums up. But there are people who are getting frustrated with silver. I see more and more comments from folks that are just hanging it up on silver. In fact, one comment, and I forget who said it, said that I've just given up on silver and switched entirely to gold. And in a sense, one can make the argument that that's what I've done too, but I have been buying some silver. In fact, I bought more silver this year than I have in the last couple of years, believe it or not, with some of these lower prices here. And it's a move that we're starting to see with these low silver prices. There might be bargains out there, but they're not as often. They're not there as much as we've seen in the past. Even with Black Friday deals, they've really been few and far between to the deals we've been used to. And so people are deciding to move to gold because the premiums are lower. In fact, one could buy a 10th ounce of gold for right about the same amount of premiums on a percentage basis as they would silver. And you get a lot of value packed in a small package. So there is that. Of course, you'd have to do some more studies and analysis on it to see what those premiums are compared to some silver out there. But it's interesting. It's fascinating. A lot of this thing is down the road here. the Fed is going to be ramping up this tapering here so they can raise interest rates. It'll be fascinating to see how the precious metals react. As I mentioned before, with analysis in our prior videos, several of them in fact, when the Fed raises interest rates, we may see gold and silver climb. And don't rule out stagflation happening here in the United States. I believe there's a lot of uncertainty ahead for 2022 and 2023. Nonetheless, silver's weird reaction today as a rubber band effect from yesterday, the kind of explosive move to the opposite side where gold is actually down and silver is up, where the prior day it was the exact opposite. This is interesting. It's uncanny, unprecedented in some cases. I don't know. Certainly doesn't happen very often. If it is precedented, there's not much precedent to find, but it's interesting indeed. But silver's acting weird. Should we be acting weird? And I would make the argument that we should not. We should stay sane. Now, one can make the notion, and rightfully so, that your host here is very weird and strange, but that is sort of a normal thing for me to be weird. But I believe as far as our purchasing decisions are made, we should be calm, collective, and studious as to try to find the bargains out there for pure stackers, lowest amount over spot. And maybe, you know what, it might not be a bad idea to stay away from these coins. Silver Eagles might not be a bad idea, as people do tend to buy these, even when the premiums are high. They're getting so high that they're almost becoming cost prohibitive and not really the best store of wealth right now, especially when you consider the spread between what you would get back for them as opposed to what you're paying for them in the premiums. So maybe a good idea to look for other coins, such as the constitutional silver like this, but some of those premiums are fairly high too. Look for bargains in this area and other silver coins and bars out there that could provide a way to be able to preserve your wealth at the smallest premium possible. It's a good buying opportunity if the buys are right. Otherwise, be very cautious when purchasing silver during this time. But the one thing that I recommend against, strongly recommend against, yea, though I'm not a financial advisor, and that is for those of you who have silver, is just to hold on to it. If you don't need to sell it, there's no need to sell it. It's really the bottom line. That's why it's good to have a store of cash on hand for emergency purposes. I would never sell anything out of frustration, because then, and only then, is when you will feel the defeat. So hold on through this tough time when silver prices are unexpectedly lower, as we've seen, a good, about $6 drop over the course of the year from its highs around 28 and some change. So there you have it. Silver's weird activity occurring today. I would like to extend a multitude of gratitude to you all for taking the time to watch and to encourage you to please rate, share, comment, and subscribe.